plan for healthcare. It's quite simple. First of all, the idea that we do not have socialized medicine or a test case for it in the States is incorrect. The Veterans Administration.
If you see the veterans, oh God.
$180 billion a year
how
we
disgusting.
spend trying to help our
disgusting.
veterans. Hasan, let me finish. $180 billion a year we spend trying to help our veterans, and they wait in line, they die in the clinics, the quality care is unbelievably low. You cannot say that the Veterans Administration is a well-run government agency despite us spending $180 billion a year trying to help our vets. We have seen
disgusting
what's
that
disgusting?
you would send these young men and women overseas to
Me?
go fight not you, I'm talking about
against your-
conservatives in
you.
general. Just conservatives in general don't mind sending these young men and women overseas to fight imperialist conquests that have nothing to do with protecting America or protecting American sovereignty. Hold on, that's great, that's great. That's just one war though, we're waging many currently. But then they come back and the numbers have obviously increased. The number of casualties have increased. The treatment is drastically different than a regular pool of American citizens who aren't in the line of fire. How could you then turn around, not fund that system that we promised those veterans we would take care of them, not fund that system, and then use it as a talking point to say socialized medicine does not work? That is disgusting.
We should take care of our vets.
Disgusting.
You know what's disgusting, Hasan? The fact that you defend that system. The fact that vets die waiting for care. Our vets are our heroes. First of all, I'm against the Afghanistan war, against the Iraq war, against our funding of Saudi Arabia's illegal war in Yemen. I'm against the missile strikes in Syria. So don't try to paint me in the same blend and the same brush that all neoconservatives are. Second of all, ironically, Donald Trump is making the world a safer place. The Korean War is ending thanks to Donald Trump. ISIS is on the run and being destroyed.
What does this have to do with us lying to our veterans that we were going to take care of them and then letting
the Veterans
them be homeless on the
Administration, which
streets,
is socialized medicine, the Veterans Administration, which is socialized medicine, does a disservice. You advocate for socialized medicine. I do not want the rest of the country.
I'm not saying the VA is good. I'm saying that it's underfunded.
That our veterans have to.
You're using that as a tool to just attack socialism, attack
piece of
socialized
evidence.
medicine.
It's called evidence.
This works
Hasan.
in every other country that has tried to do this. This works. This system absolutely
Cuba?
works.
How does the Cuban healthcare system work?
The Cuban healthcare
system.
The Cuban healthcare system? Oh, you mean the country where they're on the verge of solving AIDS and a multitude of different cancer research? Like, what are you talking about?
Okay, I just had to stop it there because I couldn't believe my ears. Did Hasan Piker actually say that Cuba, the health system there, is going to be it's a health system that is going to be solving the AIDS crisis and also a multitude of cancers? Did he actually say that? Folks, I don't think he said that. I really don't think he said that. I'm going to give him... let's just go back and see whether or not he said that, because did he really say that? That Cuba is the epitome of healthcare? Solving cancer and solving AIDS for the whole world? No more AIDS in the world? No more cancer in the world? Really? Let's go back and see if that's true.
Cuban healthcare system.
The Cuban healthcare system? Oh, you mean the country where they're on the verge of solving AIDS and a multitude of different cancer research? Like, what are you talking about?
Where their life expectancy.
He goes, what are you talking about? Hasan Piker, he is so out of depth, so out of his league with this. This is absolutely incredible. He's being sliced and diced by Charlie. In terms of Charlie just putting out these statistics and basically just saying, and it was flying back and forth. Charlie was basically saying, socialized medicine, I will give you. Socialized medicine is the Veterans Affairs Division, the VA hospitals. And all Hasan Piker basically can do is say, oh, he has no facts, no figures. He just tries to pull on the emotional strings of the crowd and says, oh, how dare you? It's disgusting that you actually bring up the VA system, our poor veterans, that we were pretty promising. Of course we promised those. That's the politicians. That's Washington, D.C. That's government bureaucracy. That's the Department of Defense. That's those people. It's nothing to do with being disgusting or that the healthcare system, and he says, oh, socialized medicine, it works in other countries. Maybe in some countries it doesn't work, but in some others it does. Yes, because they're taxing people out of the wazoo and they don't have 350 or 360 million people to deal with. And most of the Nordic countries are all homogenous. Hasan, if you didn't realize it by now, they're like 99% white in the Nordic countries. Okay? How many Hispanics are there? How many blacks are there? How many Africans? How many Chinese? How many Japanese? How many Taiwanese? How many Malaysians? How many Indonesians? How many Middle Easterners? How many Arabs? How many Egyptians? Huh? How many Latin Americans? How many Nicaraguans? How many Hondurans? How many are in the Nordic countries where all this socialized stuff is supposed to be so great? Anyways, folks, we're going to get back to this debate, but before we do, you're watching the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, where I give you my political prescription, my political perspective as to what's happening. And that's what's on tap for today. We've got the debate between Hasan Piker and Charlie Kirk. Let's get to it right now.
Expectancy is 15 years,
but
less than the United States, where they have widespread starvation, where they lock up political dissidents.
Okay.
Why do people flee Havana, Cuba for Miami, Florida?
I don't know. Maybe our
flee
sanctions
Miami,
have
Florida
something to do with
for
it?
Havana, Cuba.
Okay, maybe it's because people did not want to willingly give away their land. But I'm not here defending Cuba. I don't give a shit about Cuba, dog. I'm talking about America.
No, you just
and I'm
you
talking
just said
about
they're
comparable
solving
nations.
AIDS, which is
I'm talking about comparable
false.
nations. We are talking about socialized medicine in comparable nations. Are you going to say that America and Cuba are virtually identical? I think that Canada is a better example, and there are definitely problems within the Canadian healthcare system, again, due to privatization and due to underfunding and crippling the institution from within because of privatized policies. This is all, private enterprise is grossly responsible for the lack of affordable healthcare in this country. It shouldn't even be affordable. It should be free. This is what the people want.
Nothing is free, Hasan.
82% of Americans, 82% of Americans want Medicare for all. 52% of Republicans want Medicare for all. The only people at this point, the only people who are standing firmly against Medicare for all are just essentially saying, look, I don't care. I love corporate lobbyists. I think big pharma should continue to increase their profits. And it doesn't matter if you can't live a dignified life without the crippling fear that if you lose your job, you might lose your health care and you might literally die. And if you can't fund your medicine, if you can't fund your health care, then you should beg on the internet through crowdsourcing.
Again, Hasan, you are virtue signaling constantly because you are implying that just because I have a different policy.
Yes, you're virtue signaling. Did you hear that, Hasan?
I mean,
the free market system.
If you're against it, that's what you want.
So in every single sector and vertical, allow me to finish.
Okay, you want private housing,
whether it be in food, whether it be in anywhere the free market is allowed to interact, which we do not have a free market system in healthcare right now. You cannot buy health insurance across state lines. We have a national quota for doctors. We have the FDA that disallows entrepreneurs to compete against big pharma by having patents for 30 years so that people with great ideas.
Do you think FDA regulation is bad when it comes to medicine? There are certain elements of regulation that is bad.
Allow me to finish,
but I want you to be very specific. No, you can't just throw 8 different points.
Let me finish. How about a 30-year patent on a drug that disallows someone with a better idea that would bring down the price of the drug so that the middle class could have the same sort of treatment that the rich and powerful have? That's
the regulation that you think I'm against?
No, I'm not saying you're against it. I'm saying what I'm for, Hasan.
I think we should look.
Again, let me finish.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, you're right.
The free market allows itself to three really, really big things. It allows prices to go down, quality to go up, and abundance to go outward. Everywhere it's tried, whether it be grocery stores, whether it be housing, the laws of the market do not stop working just because it's in healthcare. Whether it be LASIK eye surgery used to cost $20,000 per eye. Insurance companies
technological advancements that are
because of the free market.
More affordable.
The insurance companies would not cover the LASIK eye surgery. It was a cash business. Doctors went outside of the traditional system, and all of a sudden now it costs $500 per eye for LASIK eye surgery.
Everything you're saying is flat out false. And also,
what's false about that?
No,
we live under a mix.
Gotta stop here, Hasan. The person who's lying, you simmer, stupid, idiotic, moronic retard. Everything that you're saying is either inaccurate or you're just making it up. You're pulling out of your derriere. You're pulling out of your ass there, Hasan Piker. Come on, man. He just basically gave you some facts as to what happens with LASIK eye surgery. It used to cost thousands of dollars per eye. Insurance companies don't cover it. Doctors decide to take cash. You can't go to an insurance company. Guess what? All of a sudden, technology improves. People want it. There's competition in the market. Some doctors charging me 20, another's charging me 10, another's charging 15. I guess I'm going to go to that doctor, okay? Check the doctor out. He looks to be pretty good. I'm going to get my eye surgery. Next thing you know is prices keep coming down, keep coming down. And Hasan goes, no, dude, you're wrong, dude. Everything you're just saying is a lie, dude. That's all Hasan is. That's all Hasan's doing. Just emotional tugs, no facts, pulling stuff out of his ass every which way, and basically saying, you know what? Capitalism sucks. Socialism, communism, Cuba, they're going to solve AIDS and they're going to solve cancer.
Economy, Charlie, so it's a consequence of both publicly funded research and also certain private elements. So when you try to turn around and look at technological advancements that are happening in virtually every field, okay, virtually every field on an international scale, and assume that this is just a consequence of free market capitalism, well, let's talk. Yeah, no, it's actually unicorns, dude. Unicorns are giving us magically the
Hasan, answer me a question.
If we're going to lie about this stuff, then we might as well just go all the way out.
Does insurance cover LASIK?
Does insurance
cover LASIK?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because when you don't have the insurance lobby within the negotiating of prices, then the consumer knows exactly what everything costs.
Are you going to?
The reason why healthcare costs so much in this country, you go into a hospital, no one knows what anything costs. No one knows what anything costs for how long you stay there, for how long the procedure is. A key component of a market is pricing.
Yeah.
The problem with the system we have now,
and we live in a country that is virtually the only country on the planet that does not negotiate drug prices. Even Donald Trump said he was going to do this, and he's failed to deliver on that promise, among many other promises, like he was going to solve the economy, or that he was going to bring about...
He already solved the economy.
This is preposterous to assume that, like, insurance, you could just unjustifiably just throw out a claim without expecting me to... I can't even talk, holy shit. Refute it.
That's right. You can't even talk, okay? You can't even get the words out of your mouth because you're trying to keep up with Charlie, and he's just so far ahead of you that he's lapping you. He's lapping you, and you're being basically his lapdog there, Piker.
When you say, when you make this ridiculous assertion that insurance companies are actually decreasing prices when it's not the government
they're not.
regulating
Hasan, I asked a very specific question.
What?
LASIK eye surgery,
but then you
not covered by insurance.
Okay.
Consumers went straight to the doctor, so they knew how much it cost. Therefore, prices went down, quality went up, and accessibility went outward. That's what happens when a market is allowed to exist.
So why is it in virtually every other... because, I don't know the ins and outs of the complicated LASIK surgery, and I'm willing to bet that you don't either. You just know a talking point about it, but it doesn't matter. Look, none of this matters. Because
he just schooled you, dude. He just schooled you. You just basically said, I don't know the ins and outs of LASIK surgery, and neither do you, but you're just basically doing a talking point. Well, at least his talking point is a talking point. Your talking point is basically bupkis.
Hyper-focusing on LASIK surgery. Are all Americans, is this the most important problem that all Americans have to face when it comes to our current obesity
I'm really glad you asked.
When it comes to the cancer rate in the U.S.,
Hasan,
which is good, we're good on cancer, if you can afford it.
So how do you get things to cost less? Competition, which is inherent in a free market.
Regulation
raises prices. Regulation prices out middle-class consumers. Regulation is a tool used by corporations to go after small business owners. That is why the biggest corporation...
the small business owner like Pfizer. You're right, dude. Come on,
Pfizer has a $100 million a year government lobbying budget.
I hate that. We agree on that.
That is corporatism.
Yeah.
That is not capitalism. It's different when you have a good idea versus buying lobbyists, sending them to D.C., saying, put all these rules and regulations that I can afford, but the entrepreneur from Silicon Valley that has a 5-person company cannot afford $20 million in regulation.
So why is it cheaper in other countries, Charlie? Explain that to me.
Because America is subsidizing it, you fool. The United States, and perhaps maybe some other Western European countries. I would imagine, I'm not sure, but I know at least the United States were subsidizing. When the drug prices are so high over here, for 99% of all the drug innovations are occurring here in the United States of America. They're occurring here with American innovation, American technology. And then to go to the FDA, to go through the 3 trials, it's not spending a few $1 million. You're talking billions of dollars. And maybe one of your drugs gets through. but the others are stopped along the way. And all the money that you spent, tough. But then what do you think happened with COVID? What do you think? You think that COVID was free? Heck no. It cost the American taxpayers billions of dollars, billions. They just raided our tax money to pay for it. And then guess what? Other countries around the world, do you think they didn't pay market? They paid below market. If not free, they got some of this stuff was given to countries out there that couldn't afford it. Come on.
If it's not government price negotiations, why is it cheaper in virtually every other country? As a matter of fact, this is a ridiculous talking point because, like, conservatives have, for the most part, maybe not Charlie, but I am willing to hear your perspective on this. Conservatives, for the most part, have, like, completely decided that the whole regulation conversation is ridiculous and have gone so far as to say that we are subsidizing healthcare for the rest of the world because we are the most innovative nation when it comes to medicine. It's preposterous. Every other nation is able to do this, and these companies are still selling to them. Obviously, they're not selling out of the goodness of their heart because there's no such thing. It's all profit motive, right? So they're capable of lowering drug prices here in the United States as well. But the only reason why they won't, and you're correct on this, I will tell you, because obviously I'm very anti-lobby here, and anti-corporatist and anti-capitalist.
And anti-American.
Lobbying is inherently a capitalist structure. You constantly talk about how money is
corporatist. There's difference.
Okay, corporatist and capitalist. Like, the two go hand in hand.
Those are not the same thing. That's like saying I'm...
Crony capitalism is just unfettered capitalism, and you are constantly, on the one hand, arguing against regulation, and then on the other hand saying, well, it's not true capitalism. Okay. Which one is it? Should we regulate capitalism so it doesn't turn into crony capitalism?
I think we should massively deregulate the American economy. I'm not saying to abolish every single piece of regulation. But when regulations... Let me finish.
Except for, like, the patent one, which I'm on board with as well.
What regulation specifically? How about Dodd-Frank? That'd be a great start. That disallows community banks from competing against Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase. The big banks wrote Dodd-Frank. That is why we've seen an 80% decrease in community banks over the last 8 years since the passage of Dodd-Frank, because it makes it nearly impossible for community banks to be able to compete against the Wall Street banks. I will say this.
What Charlie fails to mention with Dodd-Frank is, like,
I did not interrupt you.
No, what Charlie fails to mention with Dodd-Frank, and you can't say this and not mention this part, there are plenty of fail-safes within Dodd-Frank, which was imperfect, I will admit. There are plenty of fail-safes that were also taken away. For example, the fiduciary responsibility. So if you're an old person and you go up to a bank, that your banker can virtually make any sort of risky financial decision they want to now, because they took that away so that the bankers could make more money off of your money that they're playing around with. This is the kind of deregulation that already caused the 2008 housing market crash.
I'm not going to get into...
No, you're not going to
get into
the
Freddie, rating agencies,
I know what the fuck
Federal Reserve, Federal Reserve lowering, Federal Reserve lowering interest rates. Hold on, what's Fannie and Freddie, genius? What's Fannie and Freddie? Tell me what that is. Tell me about the rating agencies. Okay. Tell me about how we should have allowed Wells Fargo to pay a price, and those people should be in prison right now for doing what they did.
I agree.
And lying to federal regulators.
Charlie sounds like a communist to me.
It was a Democrat Congress and a Democrat Senate and a Democrat president.
Advocating to jail bankers, I'm on board, dog. Let's do it right now.
Talking over each other for the next 45 minutes, or you can let me finish. The final thing I'll say on banking regulation, one of the biggest misrepresentations of reality is somehow that free market capitalism contributed to the 2008 financial crisis. It was the rating agencies in bed with Fannie and Freddie Mac doing AAA bond rating with B and B minus rated bonds. No one looked what they were actually rating. It was the government institutions,
credit swaps,
Wall Street, to continue to go after subprime mortgage lending, where they did credit default swaps on top of it, leveraging the entire American economy, with Alan Greenspan artificially lowering interest rates after 9/11, playing with cheap money. Pair that with the Community Reinvestment Act, and no one actually knowing what they're trading.
I don't like liberals
all
either, dog.
certified
We're on the same page.
by Washington.
We're on the same page, but you sound a lot like a communist.
Wow, wow, wow. The sparks were flying. But once again, go over this again, folks. Tell me that I'm wrong. Put it down to comment. Just say, Dr. Nasir, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Now, trying to be fair and balanced, but did you hear anything at all? Anything at all from Hasan Piker as to defending his position with anything other than some emotional modifiers, other than making some absolutely ludicrous statements that Cuba is going to solve the AIDS crisis with their healthcare system, and they're going to solve many of the cancer problems in the world, that they're going to solve all these through the Cuban health system, that the other countries around the world, because of their homogenous population or mainly white ethnic population, can basically be on the same level of healthcare as the United States, that it's got a population of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times some of these countries? Can you honestly say that Hasan Piker brought anything to the table there other than stupidity? I don't know, folks, but I'd love to hear your comments about it. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasir. If you haven't done so already, we'd love you to subscribe to the channel if we've earned it. Check us out. Like, share, and follow us. You know what to do. Check out our video links above and below. My final thought, as always, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're just wrong, like Hasan Piker. Anyways, folks, take care and stay safe.